@SpartaTWP. Please note that adequate public notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. No new business to be conducted after 9:30 p.m., and the meeting will end at 10. Let us begin with a salute to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Raisha, would you please call the roll?
Christine Quinn,
Here.
Mike Wallace,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mike Sylvester,
Here.
Ron Day,
Here.
Christine Dunbar,
Here.
Joan Furman,
Here.
Ernie Ragsdale,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Jeanette Burt,
Here.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano,
Here.
Brian Zimmerman,
Here.
Birgit Bogler.
So apologies to the public for us starting so late. We're having a few technical difficulties with our presentation. That having been said, we are going to be doing things, we're doing things a little bit in order because the minutes are first on the agenda. So I will bring it to the board for any comments or questions on the minutes related to June 17th, 2026. Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And we need a roll call vote, please.
Christine Quinn,
Yes.
Mike Wallace,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Ron Day,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Ernie Ragsdale,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Jeanette Burt,
Yes.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Brian Zimmerman, Birgit Bogler.
Brian?
Aye.
They're minutes, so it's administrative, so you're okay. Now we will move on to meeting minutes for July 15th, 2026. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. May I have a motion and a second for approval for these minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve. I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Christine Quinn,
Yes.
Mike Wallace,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Ron Day,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Ernie Ragsdale,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Jeanette Burt,
Yes.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Brian Zimmerman,
Yes.
Birgit Bogler.
Okay, all sets of minutes having been approved. We are going, we do not have any resolutions. We are going to hold for the moment for the public hearings, which is the community facilities element and the recycling element, pending these technical difficulties. Executive session will be moved to the end of this meeting, so we are going to move forward with updates. Deputy Mayor Sylvester, Town Council, please.
No updates as pride. None.
Okay,
No updates.
no updates, okay. Updates for subcommittees. We do have minutes for minor site plan subcommittee. We, to date, have 28 applications that have come through minor site plan. Out of those, we only have one that's pending. 2 of those applications were withdrawn by the applicant. One of them was denied, the rest were approved. So that is the update for minor site plan. And we anticipate that last application to be reviewed and resolved within the next few days. Master plan subcommittee, we have had, we had our last meeting on Monday?
Monday.
Monday, apologies. We've had so
There you
many.
go.
I know, we've had so many. We had our last meeting on Monday where the subcommittee did discussed the goals and objectives. We went through the first goal for the overarching document and the objectives relative to that. We seem to be in agreement that the objectives that have been put together are reasonably cohesive, potentially subject to change as other elements, come into light. We are going to be moving forward with subsequent meetings, one scheduled for the 10th of this month and one scheduled for the 26th of this month. Originally, the meeting on the 10th was intended to review the submission that was made from the planning board or the township to the Highlands for purposes of the grant, and that was the assessment to determine whether or not it would be reasonable for us to opt into the regional master plan. But the intent of that was that the presentation of that was supposed to be scheduled for the 19th. However, the liaison to the council, to the Highlands Council, is not available on the 19th, so that's going to get pushed back to September 2nd. We're hoping that that's going to be a joint meeting between the town council for Sparta and the planning board for the purposes of that presentation. That having been said, the agenda for the next master plan subcommittee meeting on Monday has not quite yet been solidified because we're not exactly sure how many more elements of the master plan are ready for review and consumption. But should that not be the case, then we'll continue with goals and objectives and continue that discussion on the 10th with the intention of the Highlands submission to be reviewed at our meeting on the 26th. That having been said, that's everything at this point for Master Plan Subcommittee. We are also supposed to be scheduling out our meetings for September. That schedule will come out within the next few days. So we will move forward to other board business.
Yes, Celeste, we had discussed informally the Lake Mohawk Historic District ordinance, and under D, other board business, I did provide to the board a proposed ordinance that was given by Ms. Watson and Mr. Gills. Stephen, I think they're here. Are they? Yes.
Yes.
If you mind coming up real quick, we'll get you in and out. If they could just explain this is an ordinance that they had provided, and I appreciate it. I know that Christine Quinn had pointed out a couple quick things in here, but if they could just bring us up to date. This is the Lake Mohawk. Tell us about the ordinance that you gave to me. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? I think I might take this off. So this is a standalone ordinance where it is basically fashioned after the existing one for the C1H, but it is very specific to the White Deer Plaza area, and it basically lists the permitted principles to be inclusive of predominantly what is there today, and takes into account what had been previously noted with regard to the inclusion of hotels, motels, and inns. Those are no longer in here as listed approved or permitted uses. So outside of that, it's fairly straightforward, and also lists specifically the blocks and lots that are within the White Deer Plaza Historic District.
And did the Lake Mohawk, is your organization approve this? Are they okay with it, or still needs your internal approval?
It has been approved. Yes.
Board, what I'd recommend, and I got this on July 17th, so I did review it. I apologize for only sending it to you yesterday, but I would think it would be proper to put it on our next agenda, give you time to look at it. I'll have time to submit this to the township attorney if he had any comments as to this, and we could have a discussion at your next meeting. Again, this is you don't have any power in and of itself to pass the ordinance, but as part of the consistency review, and we have the master plan, I think this is very timely. So again, I'd recommend, unless any other comments from Stephen, who's there, we'll just put it on the next agenda. That's okay with the board.
No, I think Sabina's got it covered. Thank you.
I'm in agreement with that, especially since our next meeting is on the 19th, and the town council's meeting is thereafter on the 25th, if they choose to make a decision at that time.
I think Christine, you had some, and I appreciate you reviewed it already.
I did. I
So-
took notes. I did.
Okay.
So
I wouldn't be
just-
surprised Joan has reviewed it. I don't know yet.
I just had two questions. One is, I know that in one of the properties in reviewing the block and lot numbers, there's a daycare there. So my question is that considered
Chris,
retail?
can you please use the
Oh,
Thank you.
that would be helpful. Okay. So I noticed in reviewing the block and lot numbers, I believe one of them has a daycare. One of the properties has a daycare in it. And I'm just wondering, is that part of what you would consider to be retail? Or does that need a special provision to say it's allowed?
It would be special provision.
Okay, so I think since it's already there,
Yes.
maybe that's something to think about, is just to add that in there so that that is,
We can definitely take a look at that. It could very well be something like a, yeah, we're trying to get away from the pre-existing non-conforming, so we'd have to look at the language specific to that kind of use. That is general terminology in zoning ordinances.
it's just that, like, the only concern is because it's already existing. God
Yes.
forbid something happened.
If they do any kind of improvements, we wouldn't want to have to, require them subsequently to go for a variance. Agreed.
So if you could think about that.
Yes.
And the other thing that concerned me was when I was reading page 2, in the paragraph, it says required conditions. And then the sentence reads, the requirements for the C-HWDP zone shall be the same as C1 zone. So my concern there is that's not the C1H zone, right? Because the C1H zone has has hotels and motels in it. So do you need that sentence in there at all, tying you to another zone?
Well,
Because we're
C1H
making
as it
this your-
stands today has that same language in it. It refers back to the C1 zone.
Okay, I just want to
So-
make sure that. because
So
this
it's an
is your
overarching
own-
one. Yeah.
So we're good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll take, we got time, but maybe we'll take another look at that.
Yeah, we will. Absolutely.
Those are just my two things.
Thank you.
And then just quickly, we have the board engineer and board planner here. I'd recommend, obviously, if they could take a look at this and give their input forward at that. I think that would be proper.
I think that's absolutely.
So as a point of process, you mentioned that this, I think when we had this discussion, we said that the intent was for us to basically bring this to the council, right? As, so we were going to make this recommendation to the council.
Right.
So does it make sense that, so I guess in that process question, if we reach out to them before we talk about this at the next meeting, then is that bypassing our process? Should it just stay with us and then go to them when we've had the discussion?
I mean, transparency is not going to hurt us here.
Okay.
It's I think the comment, it'll be in public at our next session. We have a nice framework here. Christine, good comment, but I think we're okay.
Okay.
I have one comment, if I can, just a question. When I look at the principal uses, number 4 is apartments over retail, commercial, and office establishments. So that's a permitted use, but I think it's also captured in the conditional use. So the question is, should it be one or the other?
So the first one is actually based on existing.
Existing,
Yes. It is not for proposed.
Good question.
So Ken, would we need number 4? Just so it's not, so it doesn't confuse, if they're existing, I think it's already there, is my
Yes.
understanding.
However, if we were to have an establishment that currently does not have an apartment above it, then that would fall under the requirement for a conditional use.
Your Honor, if
Oh,
that,
I see, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, let me think about that one, too.
So for instance, we had,
Okay.
okay,
Let me think about it a little bit more.
okay,
Question on-
no problem.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other preliminary questions? Because we'll do a deeper dive at our next meeting.
so Celeste, you'll have that on the agenda.
I believe
Sure.
Joan.
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to go over this because I was busy and it, as you said, it came out last night. So, but there are a couple things. One is Chris brought up the C1 zone. That would be kind of like where J. Thomas Jewelers and, you know, a lot of that area, and then this other area by, as you're coming down Woodport Road and stuff. But a lot of that also refers to the design standards that are in place there. And I don't think Lake Mohawk should be having the same kind of design standards as a C1 zone. And that was one of the reasons we brought this up last year, because we were going through the minor site plan subcommittee and looking at these signs, and we were running into, you know, a lot of questions and trouble about it. Last time we met, we asked that Ken put together an ordinance, but this is now just coming back with some changes from last time. But Ken, I'd like to recommend that you take a look maybe at the TCC zone. I think it's a much stronger ordinance, and I think it would be more beneficial for Lake Mohawk to have some of these more stringent things. The sign standards are much more updated there until such time as we're ready to look at design standards and signs specifically for C1H. And if that's not ready, I think that the TCC will offer much better protection for that and overall. And I noticed some of these things did change from the last time, and it did not incorporate all of our comments. And I took a look at what you had sent to town council, because I had asked for it, but it wasn't given to the rest of the board, and it didn't include all of our comments. So I want to make sure that all of that is incorporated in here. So maybe you can take a look at a rewrite, because this should be coming from a land use position, you know, what makes sense in that area. And we're going to look at it in the master plan, but we should be thinking at it from that perspective now, too.
So all of that is intended to happen. This is what was existing from the club and what the club provided to us.
Correct,
as
but
the-
now
as
we
the
have
meat-
to-
Right, now
so
it's time.
we have
for-
to
for
do
us
that
to pull it all
before,
together.
you know, not just look at this, but I really would like Ken's input and have a review of TCC and some other things to, you know, kind of tighten this up a little bit.
Good comment on you can reference the TCC zone as to design standards.
Well, I think there's some other protections in there too. I'd just like you to take a look at it because I think it might be a better starting point and incorporate, you know, some of these changes into that. But take a look and, you know, get back to us on that. You also mentioned sending this to the town council attorney. Keep in mind, he has a conflict. So who
Yeah.
should we send it to?
We should send it to the clerk, and I understand Mr. Zepp may be moving on, so I
It
would
would
send
be
it
Roxanne.
to the clerk and the acting administrator.
Okay. And I had a question. How many retail establishments are there now, kind of following up on what Ron was saying? How many are there now that do not have apartments over them?
I don't have that number exactly.
Could you find out?
Sure.
Because I think there's only
have a list
one,
in my
and I'm
office.
concerned about spot zoning, and maybe Ken, you can address spot zoning as well.
Okay?
Rose and St. Bart's, neither one of them have restaurant.
Right.
Yeah, there are at
But,
least
yeah,
two that
we
do
need to
not.
take a look at spot zoning. And I'll have to go, you know, as I said, I haven't had much chance to go through it, but based on some of the discussion, those are my comments.
So all that having been said, Ken, what do you think your timeline would be for?
I'll have it by the next meeting. So I'd like to
Perfect.
keep it on the agenda in August.
Okay, so we'll be capable of reviewing it prior to.
Yeah, and even if we don't, let's say at the 17th meeting, 19th, I'm sorry, we need more time, but I'd like to see it on the agenda, at least we can have the discussion.
And I mean, this is not, this in and of itself is not spot zoning.
No, I'll take a look at it to make sure that we're not offending any spot zoning.
Right. I mean, because it's, okay.
So we should be all right. David, you think you'll have a chance to look at it by next meeting? Yes. Thank you. And did Lindsay run away? Where's Lindsay?
Lindsay is still working on,
Lindsay's IT now.
on her,
Lindsay's
yes,
IT.
she's,
Wearing her other hat.
Lindsay, you think your team could look at it by the, good, thank you. All right,
So
that's all I have.
you'll coordinate with our professionals?
I will,
And then get back with Lake Mohawk?
yes.
And then by the 19th, hopefully way before the 19th, or at least a couple days before the 19th, the goal is to get it to us so that we could discuss it openly and it'll be on the agenda on the 19th.
Correct.
Okay.
do either of you have any questions of us that, you know, you're here, you may as well ask.
Just glad that it's appears to that there's progress being made on it. It's really important for us. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Almost there.
Okay. You know what?
That's a good sign.
That is a good sign.
That is a good sign. Do we need a 5-minute recess or can we proceed? All right, we'll have 2 open to the public sessions. Seeing as though, you know, we need to fill the time. So if anybody has any questions, comments for items that are not on the agenda, please feel free. Come to the microphone now.
And if you don't have comments, if you have a good joke, we'll appreciate that.
We'll appreciate that too.
Like you always have a good one.
If you know anything about IT, that's welcome as well.
Yes, that's welcome as well. Okay,
Almost there.
almost there. All right.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, so close.
Put your monitor on, you can see it on there.
We're so close.
We can share.
Turn it on,
No, no.
all the way to the right.
I wonder, can we make that bigger?
I don't- I
It's
see
not
that's the
touch
door.
screen.
Wait, maybe it's not plugged in.
Yeah, it may not be plugged.
Oh, I thought it was, I just thought it was this. Yeah. We just have to get it to the people.
Yes, she is.
But you can't see it, right?
Yeah,
So apologies to those who are viewing online and those who are in the audience, patiently waiting for the community facilities element presentation and the recycling element presentation, which will be happening in tandem.
There you go, no power.
Very astute.
I think we have this almost worked out.
Very astute.
Should be there somewhere.
Did it.
You see it?
Okay.
Is there any way that camera could zoom in on that? Because you can't see it from the public.
Oh, yeah.
They have to, yeah,
So
they have to
it'll-
put it
it'll
on the
pop
live.
up?
Yes,
You'll
they
share
have to
it?
put it on the live.
Thank you.
So now, everyone at home is watching that.
Okay.
Okay, so it's our anticipation that everyone at home is capable of seeing the presentation. If not, please weigh in, feel free, and we will do our best to remedy the
There you go.
situation.
You're in. On. Teamwork.
And without further ado, we will
You IT woman, you.
be presenting the community facilities element and the recycling element. Lindsay, take it away.
All right. Good evening, members of the planning board, and my tech assistant, Raisha. Tonight, we're going to be presenting the draft updates for both the community facility element and the recycling element for Sparta Township Comprehensive Master Plan. These elements all serve as kind of a blueprint for sustainable growth, ensuring that the township's infrastructure, public safety systems, and environmental framework kind of keep pace with the community's needs. So next slide, you can just click, I think, Raisha. I think I had it just lined up for you. Like, just click the mouse. Okay, click the arrow forward. Okay, this is now.
Can't see it on the live screen.
all the way back here.
Getting text messages.
Yeah.
So as public can't see
You just
it.
have to click the
Okay.
arrow.
They can't see it.
Okay, so we're getting word that the public can't see it.
No picture.
It's on presentation screen.
Is the actual presentation in the presentation mode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
What we could do is maybe take it off so it can see you guys and we can put the presentation physically online tomorrow for people to see.
But all they see is a black screen.
Yeah, they said all they see is a black screen.
Would it make sense Celeste, you mentioned 5 minutes, you give them 5 minutes, take a 5
Yeah,
minute
you
break
know
and see
what?
if we can
We're
get it up
we're gonna
there.
take a 5-minute recess right now to see if we can make sure that the public can see this.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let me see.
Better.
Yeah, 5-minute recess.
Thanks for the presentation.
Can we just ask like what it is, so next time maybe we have
I
an
think it's just a
idea?
matter of telling the tech group that we're doing a presentation.
That's what it was?
Well, I think it's they come in and they have specific ways they want to set up the room, and it wasn't set up tonight. So Raisha and I were troubleshooting to try to make it work. So we're trying our best. I think there was just a miscommunication.
Got it done, which is great. So just like store it up here for.
Okay, so
There's a lot up there. My brain's a little bit like Swiss cheese though, so I
So-
can't make any promises.
We're live, which is good. So now that the technical difficulties are seemingly taken care of, we'll let Lindsay again take it away.
All right, Raisha, you can hit the little arrow all the way at the bottom. Would it be easier for me to just sit there and use that mic?
Probably.
And
Yeah,
do it?
probably.
Be a
Yeah,
good
do you want to
idea.
switch spots, Raisha?
I'm sorry, you said what?
You're gonna swap.
Switch spots, yeah.
It'll be easier.
All right. Okay. Working. We're good. So kind of the overview of the community facilities element and the purpose is the community facilities is based on the MLUL or the municipal land use law. It directs municipalities to inventory the township's public assets, evaluate operational capacities, and project future capital investments. This ensures that educational, cultural, historic, and public safety facilities are properly aligned with the surrounding areas. So key municipal services. Sparta's public services are robust. The township's police headquarters are currently supporting 36 officers alongside regional dispatch, managing a baseline of over 39,000 incidents a year. Fire services operate across 3 stations with more than 50 volunteers, while the township's volunteer and paid ambulance squad handles roughly 1,500 calls annually. Sparta also houses a consolidated municipal court serving Sparta, Hamburg, and Ogdensburg. So other resources that Sparta has are the water and sewer utility. Regarding utilities, the Sparta Township Water and Sewer Utilities operate a decentralized network out of 12 Park Lake Road, routing wastewater to the Sussex County Municipal Utilities Authority for regional treatment. Potable water is managed across the Highland, Lake Mohawk, and Sunset Lake systems. Moving on to the recreation and green spaces, the township's parks and open spaces, including Station Park, Dykstra, or the Library Park, White Lake Fields, and the Sparta Mountain Wildlife Management Area, to name a few, provide exceptional recreational value. We kind of showed some of those options there. In speaking with kind of the subcommittee, we spoke about a lot of the resources within these parks, walking paths, fields for recreational facilities, and how in the future hopes of continuing the use of natural grass for those fields is something that's of the highest priority to the community. So in addition, this network of recreation and green spaces is heavily supported by the township's many local houses of worship, civic organizations like the VFW and Elks, and active community groups that strengthen the township's social fabric. In addition to the semi-public community assets, Sparta does have a number of private facilities, several notable facilities contributing to the community and quality of life. They consist of private lakes, golf courses, parks, marinas, and recreational amenities. Next, we kind of look at the school systems, and we did inventory on the public schools as well as the private schools. The township's public school system, including Alpine Elementary, Mohawk Avenue School, Helen Morgan School, Sparta Middle School, and Sparta High School, are projecting significant enrollment growth, particularly in the elementary grades. This is notable, especially when considering site plan applications and as they move forward. We think that incorporating things from the long-range facilities plans that the schools have done are something we should think about with upcoming applications and things that should be considered with those applications as well. After the schools, we start looking at things like healthcare facilities and access. There's local access versus regional. On the healthcare front, residents are well served locally by Atlantic Health Urgent Care, the Sparta Health and Wellness Center, and specialized surgical facilities, with regional trauma and acute care supported by Newton Medical Center, St. Clair's, and Morristown Medical Center. Next, we start looking at the accessibility of Sparta as a whole. A major priority for this element is enhancing accessibility. So Sparta currently lacks a comprehensive ADA audit, and we would recommend establishing a formal ADA self-evaluation and transition plan to systematically review municipal properties, prioritize barrier removal, and leverage available grant funding to universal compliance. Sustainable Jersey community design for all ages is something that we should also consider. This is localized walkability, which is sometimes called the 15-minute neighborhood. So that kind of means children who live in a neighborhood have accessibility to walk to things in their neighborhood, like parks, libraries, schools, or seniors can reach community facilities. So this kind of entails better sidewalks, better lighting, having shade structures along your sidewalks or benches or more street furniture, so that especially with the senior population, when you're going on those walks, there's the ability to take a second and rest. Now, with all of that being said, we kind of start looking at your public safety capacity and planning for that, and your kind of key operational metrics that would influence these things. So as I said earlier, your police service has 39,054 incidents. That's the 2025 baseline. So like I said earlier, you have 36 full-time officers. That's inclusive of 2 special law enforcement officers and a civilian staff. A recent FBI audit said that 45 is required for this size of a community, but we would recommend an internal study speaking to your police department, as well as looking at the police service areas and where maybe these calls are generating from, and determining maybe it's a matter of having more service in certain areas. Once again, we think that these incidents should also be coordinated with site plan applications and police capacity. Not necessarily asking the police just about their input regarding, we typically ask for like circulation comments, but maybe in terms of the location of the property comes into play when we consider the use in relation to their capacity as a police department. Next, we look at, you have 3 fire stations. It's 100% volunteers, and you have 50 plus members. During our outreach, we heard a lot from residents as well as from the fire department that there's currently a critical need for a facility or a satellite facility near North Village. A lot of the things we heard were that a lot of the firefighters did not live near that area, and it would take a significant amount of time to get to that area. So in the sense of safety for the community, we think looking into something like that in the future would definitely help the fire department as well as the community. Also, the fire department brought up a great point, especially for at this board or even the zoning board when considering height. There's a 105-foot ladder, and that should be something we're cognizant of when we look at the heights of the buildings. It's not necessarily saying the height of the building, but also things like setbacks or some kinds of obstacles that could keep the fire department from getting up to the building. I've seen issues where, there's parking decks, and then the building and the parking deck really limits the ability for the fire department's ladder to get to the top of those windows to really safely get to residents who are in need. Next, 1,500 ambulance squad calls. This is from 2024. This is staff from there. We're working on getting some more recent information. It's notable that most of your ambulance are paid and volunteer, so it's a mix of both. And then finally, we have a shared regional communications and court services, and this is used to optimize municipal facility efficiency and lower capital burdens. This is shared with Sparta, Franklin, Ogdensburg, Stanhope, and Hamburg. I feel like that just skipped forward. Okay. So community facilities, the key recommendations that we have here are to kind of summarize what we've went over. Sparta should establish a formal ADA transition plan. We think that's incredibly crucial, especially when we heard from the stakeholders in the senior community. We should utilize the police incident baseline in site plan reviews. We should mitigate the impacts of deferred capital projects through grants and continually explore shared service to drive down costs. Next, we're going to go into your recycling element.
Lindsay,
Yeah.
do you want to complete the community facilities before
Yeah,
we go
for
into
sure.
recycling?
Yes.
This way, everybody can kind of stay on point.
Yeah, we'll go back here.
So, yeah, this way it'll also be easier for you to get back to slides that people may want to reference.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring it up to the board for comments and questions. Brian, we're going to start with you, if you don't mind.
All right, first of all, I want to say thanks to the Mining Site Plan Subcommittee. I know we got a few people out there in the audience for what you've done. There's a lot of good work. I liked the things that you called out, the need for a Northern Village fire station, the community center, and potential reopening of White Lake. That's all good stuff. I actually had a lot of questions, and you answered a lot of them in the presentation. So let me just go to the punchlines of it. When I looked at the, I guess first of all, does Sparta have like a facilities manager or a facilities administrator? And has that person had a chance to look at this just to make sure that they're in sync? Have we reached outside of the?
So with this draft, we have not circulated it. Basically, subcommittee and planning board or who has seen this ahead of this meeting. During our stakeholder meeting, though, we did meet with various stakeholders. So like recreation department, we met with people there. So one of those things also notable is, like many other departments, they're requesting, an audit of their staff to make sure that they have enough staff to cover the shifts, to cover the activities and things like that. So while not presented in this presentation, we do say in the element that doing audits and making sure, things like field time, do we have enough fields, right? Or is there issues with scheduling? And we think that those kind of internal reviews will be really valuable to determine, what Sparta needs in the future and how your budget should look into these changes and this investment into the community.
One thing I will say is this is all new to me. And so I looked at a couple other towns and see what they had in terms of facilities.
Sure.
And most of them had like 1 or 2 pages. So this is a really comprehensive, well-done element.
Thank you. It was a lot of the subcommittee did a really great job of helping us get the information, especially we have that note about White Lake Beach and the importance of possibly looking into that reopening. And, without the subcommittee's knowledge of Sparta, we wouldn't have known that. So while we put it all together, a lot of the work was from the subcommittee.
Just a couple questions. Just when I go to the recommendations, the first one would direct the planning board and zoning board to utilize the 39,000 incidents. I'm not sure how we would do that. I guess the word to direct, who's directing who is it? To me, it's I think what I heard in the presentation was, look for ways to give consideration to these as opposed to direct somebody. So
Yeah, I think
that's
it's
probably better
different
reworded
wording.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, the concept was there.
Yeah, it's definitely leaning into the help from all of the stakeholders in the community when we do these reviews, and not just planning, engineering is great, but also how it's going to affect the police department, the fire department as well. It's really valuable information as well.
One other comment is, when I looked at there was a lot of good forward-looking objectives with the police and the fire department. There wasn't much there in terms of the ambulance squad.
Mm-hmm.
Would it make sense? I mean, we got aging population, and we've got some affordable housing coming in to put something there. Maybe periodically look at all emergency services.
Absolutely.
And add the ambulance squad to that.
Kind of do periodic audits
Yes,
of your
yeah,
emergency
and you could
services.
do it, and in fact, the emergency, you can almost do those with every reexamination just so it doesn't get left out.
Yeah,
It's probably a quick look.
for sure.
The other thing was the fields, in terms of the artificial field versus the natural field. I know there's a lot of lot of different views on this.
Oh, yeah.
And when I read the recommendation, it was almost leading. And again, we're looking, this is not just what we know today, but what are we looking for 20 years from now? So, you know, I'd almost think it'd almost be better to word it in a way that said, you know, look at what the life cycle is, which you did.
Yeah.
But then look at, you know, what are the options without calling
Sure.
this one's better or that one's better. Leave that to the experts in the study, but just, you know, look at the options, but know it's coming, but make that part of a and I'm not even sure, you know, from a planning board perspective, is that us? Is that the recreation committee department? Is that the town council? I wasn't sure what to do with that particular
Sure.
recommendation.
Yeah. So fields in most municipalities are pretty controversial, whether it's natural, turf, lights, no lights. So it's definitely something we try to handle with a little bit of sensitivity.
Yeah.
I think in terms of saying specifically to go return to natural surfaces, maybe it's looking at the technology of fields and seeing
Yes,
what is the best
exactly.
technology,
Yeah.
right? Because that's always going to be evolving, whether it's, you know, sod or it's natural grass or, you know, whatever. I think as a town, making your best decision for your youth, right? And for like the life cycle of the field is most important.
Yeah. And then the last one, and I apologize, I, you know, had these. In the write-up, you mentioned, you know, a reevaluation of reopening White Lake down the road. Don't want to lose that. You know, right now, the money's not there. 20 years from now, it may be.
Yeah.
I think that should be a specific recommendation added
Okay.
to the list.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you very much.
I'll pick up with your last one with White Lake and yeah,
Arnie, can you please use the mic?
yeah.
Thank you.
I moved it up so you can see the screen. Yeah, that's, you know, that's something we really don't want to lose. And, you know, I know, I think one of the reasons it went to the Y at one point.
Yeah.
And then they became not interested in it, but that may be something to partner with Lake Mohawk on, because lifeguards is an issue, and they have a very robust lifeguard program with, you know, so many beaches and a director and everything else, and a waterfront director. And that may be a good, you know, public-private partnership for that lake as well, because that's something that they know how to do.
Absolutely.
As far as I also noticed that the discussion on artificial turf. You know, the one thing I notice about Sparta's athletic fields when I travel around the state of New Jersey, the quality of the turf is outstanding. And in talking to the guys from the parks and actually even the retired parks director, one of the things that's helped them is having one or two artificial fields that they can put people on in the early season and get them off the grass so they don't rip it up and tear it up. And the same thing with the late fall when the grass is more susceptible. So I think again, it's probably left to the experts in parks and recreation as to what the right balance is. I think it's good to have both. But you know, there's benefits, there's obvious benefits both ways. And I think we leave that as Ron said, to the experts to make that determination and proposal. And then my last comment is just, you know, I just want to make sure everyone's aware the ambulance squad is not a township department. It's a standalone organization. And that was made necessary because when they went to paid, the only way they could do that was to be on their own. So we do have, you know, limited direction towards an input towards what they do. You know, but they do an outstanding job, and I think it was a great idea for them to go to that hybrid, because I know when I was a police officer, it was sometimes tough during the day to get a full squad, and especially if you needed a second ambulance, where now they have at least two paid ambulances in service during the day and
Yeah.
in business time. So anyway, those are my comments.
Yeah. We'll definitely put a note in that as well, because I think that's important.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of food for thought and thinking about the history of White Lake. And I brought this up that, you know, I grew up going there as a child. Even my father used to scuba dive in White Lake. And at one point it was private and you had to know the guy across the street to get access to it. And, but it all faded away, but then we built North Village. So are there enough residents in the North Village area to have memberships? Because again, if you're a child, you can walk to the beach. Just food for thought.
So
Yeah.
Brian,
Study into that.
Or even looking into if there's potential grants, right? For, because if it could be, a community resource in some way.
Yeah. All right. Just
So Brian, that's a great point. And actually, those were discussions that also, that came up a couple of years ago. And even the thought of opening it up for, let's say, water, like you could bring your canoe there, you could fish there, because the lifeguards were a big issue. There's also an easement issue that goes with that property that they were trying to work through at one point. So maybe that's something that can be taken back up again. But even if we could just get it, work in the future, because it is a tremendous asset. The water is crystal clear. It's beautiful. Yeah, and it gives people, it's a great space. But I think that's something that's really good. I think we just, from a land use side, have to look at some of those issues. And to Ernie's point, lifeguarding is very tough. I know at one point the rec department worked with the YMCA to handle and process all of the registrations. But I believe because it's not really a YMCA asset, it's sort of, I was told, sort of fell short a little bit. But something to bring back. Good points.
Ernie and Ron covered everything that I had questions about. The EMT's turf. Yes, I was around when it was such a controversy with people wanting turf, and then it was voted down, and then they finally got it. So that is going to be a touchy subject. And then White Lake, again, my kids grew up going there and swimming there, and it's such a great asset, like Christine said, that we definitely need to make that a priority. It would be a shame not to use it. And that's it. That's all I had.
Chris?
Thank you. And great job,
Thank you.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
So I obviously agree. White Lake, big asset. I think in the master plan, maybe it should also, because it's really fantastic, you mentioned all these spaces. I know the rec department just recently, I think it was last year, they worked with Jean. They did this huge inventory of all the recreational spaces. And I think sometimes when we think about adding additional recreational spaces, we forget about all the things that we could still do with the spaces that we have. I would love to see that reflected here. We don't have to necessarily go out and find more spaces, right? I mean, if that happens, great. But I think there's a lot of things that we could do with the spaces that we have, like White Lake, like the Glen, like Station Park. And I think that if we look at that, I think that's important too, and maybe that should be in here. Like taking a look at the spaces we have to figure out, if you guys remember up at White Lake Field, forever, that track only went halfway around. And when we were on the council, the question was, why does this thing go halfway around? Like, this makes no sense. Why would we have a thing that only goes halfway around? And our own DPW department finished that. So there's a lot of things that we could do internal where we don't need to go out and get a crew, hire all this external stuff. There's a lot of things like that. Look at the benefit. I walk almost every day at 6:30 in the morning up there, and that place has people way before I get there and into the night when I go to my grandchildren's games and stuff like that. People are constantly walking around there. So things like that, I'd like to see that here, like do a periodic interest, almost like an introspect.
Yeah.
In the Glen, let's get some of the trails back. Things like that. So I think that would be good if you're looking, to Ernie's point, 20 years out, right? The other thing is, I think when you mention the fire department satellite location on the other side, I think it's important to also perhaps include the police department over there. The other thing is, if that building is leveraged properly, it could also serve as a backup dispatch center. The other thing that's important about doing that is homeowners actually that live over there, and I know because I've dealt with them and tried to help them, and the managers had to help them before. you know, with your homeowner's insurance, a lot of times it's based off of what is your proximity to a fire hydrant or your proximity to whatever. And many times letters had to be written for people that lived over by the homestead and over by that area because it's so far away. But I think also for police, and again, to be able to build out and have our own backup system over there, I think maybe that it should just be expanded to maybe be emergency services, not just the fire department.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We just heard it directly from the fire department during stakeholders, so that's why it probably is
Right.
focused on them. But I think adding all services is, especially we recommended looking at the police and where your calls are generating from and seeing where locations maybe need to be for a substation. So I think that that area in general, having an emergency services facility would make a lot of sense.
Right, like, so, that's my take on that one. On page 8, I just had a question. In looking at the district's long-range facility plan, does this information, so I see the student information and the projected jump and everything, and my question is, this had to have been done before the affordable housing component was finalized, right? So
Yeah, we haven't even seen the housing element.
that's what I'm saying. So these numbers are, I just want to be clear, these numbers do not include the influx that will be coming with the additional affordable housing units, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we don't know anything about the housing element at this point or what is being proposed or what the developers who challenged what their proposals are. We're not aware of any of that.
Okay. The other thing I had a question about was VOTEC. So it just seemed kind of to me that VOTEC was like, oh yeah, and we have VOTEC. But we also have a charter school over there. So there's a middle school charter school also on Route 94. And so I think that, you know, I don't know, maybe I just missed it, but
It's in there.
It
is it there? The technical school?
225 students.
Okay, so, okay, so it's in there, good, okay. The other thing that I would recommend putting into a forward view, because I've heard this a lot from EMS in the past, is because of our proximity to emergency services, they really need a helipad somewhere. So in the winter time, and Ernie, I'm gonna defer to you on this one, a helipad so that in the middle of the winter time, when there's snow and ice and everything else on the ground, or even other times, they have a space where they can land a helicopter safely. Not in snow, not in whatever, something that's maybe heated or whatever it might be. But that's something I've heard repeatedly, and I think that should be included in this, especially as our numbers are getting bigger and bigger, to maybe look at expanding the facilities that we have. And I think one big area there is helipads.
Probably a perfect use for the clover leaves up here on the bypass. One of those big areas in between. There's a lot of land there. I mean, you know, 50 years, more than 75 years ago, they used to put gas stations there.
Yeah.
You know, but I know we don't want to do that, but it's probably a great place right in the middle of town. To Christine's point, one of the problems with the helipads is, or the medevacs, is they generally use the Mohawk Avenue school field, which disrupts phys ed classes, you know, youth sports games, you know. It can be a little hectic for the firemen because they got to now keep the kids back who get excited about that. Having a dedicated helipad in the middle of town, especially in bad weather when there's snow on the ground, what they end up doing now is using the bypass and closing the road down.
Okay.
So, I mean, you're closing a major artery down of traffic to be able to put a helicopter, you know, down and transfer a patient. To get maybe the state to allow us to put a helipad in one of those areas, which is very central to the town.
Yeah.
That would probably be a great location, and it's state land, it's not being used. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. Thanks, Christine. That was a good
Sure.
idea.
And then my last thing is just to jump onto what they were saying about turf. I feel like this comment to, look at it and look at removing it, I think that's putting the cart before the horse. So I do think that needs to be reworded because remembering when everybody was sharing their feelings about getting turf here, the whole thing was our kids are going to be playing on turf wherever they go. So it's important because things do react differently. Balls take different hops, cleats behave differently. So we felt it's important for them to at least be able to practice and be whatever. That doesn't mean every field's a turf field at all, but it meant providing them a place where they could practice. So when they get to all these other schools that have turf everywhere, they at least understand that things are going to be a little bit different. So I just agree with, I think what I heard, and I'm having a little trouble hearing over here, but I think what I basically heard was don't make the statement, look at replacing it. It's make the statement, look at the best solutions out there, rather than this thing is, this sort of reads to me, well, if it's done, put grass back. So
Got it.
that's it.
All right, I'll try to be quick. I'm coming at this from a totally different perspective. Nice job to date so far, so good. It's very nice, very good and informative. I'm coming at this from a pure financial and economic perspective and maybe just clarification. So as all these elements are being generated, developed, looked at what point does the master plan go through a kind of like a financial test, an economic and feasibility analysis study? Is it during each phase as you're doing these elements? Or is it once you pull a final draft, then you put that through that financial stress test?
So there's a couple things. We do have an economic development element, but I don't think that's necessarily hitting on your question. I think overall, when we look in like kind of the introduction, the way we're kind of doing this is we're doing all of the elements, but in the background, we have an introduction, we have all that information, and that is what is kind of giving you a holistic look at the entire comprehensive master plan. And it would be in there where you look about capital improvements. We can talk about, grant funding and all the different opportunities for funding in, whether it's planning for your budget, but we don't actually dive into the direct numbers. I don't think you'd want us to put any budget information in there.
And I think it's important because it's great. We're putting all this effort into it, but it still has to be practical,
Absolutely.
financeable, investable. It has to be achievable over a period of X to Y timeframe. And it can't just be on hopes that community grant programs are available or some type of financial assistance and the like are there. There has to be, just like you do a business plan, you have to put a pro forma behind it to justify and then see if it's sustainable and it's scalable.
Yeah.
And that's the way I'm viewing this is from a scalable perspective. If this is going to be a lot of broad strokes, my other comment here, if this is a lot of broad strokes, we want X, Y, and Z, I think then we should not be so specific in identifying, i.e. like the turf field conversation. I'm supporting the comments that were made earlier. I mean, if we're going to say broad, this is kind of the vision, this is what we want, then let's keep the recommendations broad, not specific.
Got it.
All right. And then the other thing is when you look at all these breakdowns, they all need a staffing plan, which goes right back into the financial and feasibility study and plan. Looking at police incidents, I'm a little questionable about that, but I understand,
Yeah.
To look at that data and what's that data telling you
Yeah.
to try to accommodate it. It's a matter of then at that point, the numbers you just presented, we're short-staffed as it is
Yeah. So
by
the idea
X number
is-
of police officers. So as we're developing this plan, there's got to be a staffing plan, whether it's for recreational, community, fire, police, et cetera, that as we're scaling that over a 20-year window, there's a staffing plan and a budget kind of, and it's a forecast. It's not hard numbers, but it's something that you're putting pencil to paper and trying to really do some supportive math that makes this feasible and
Yeah.
attainable.
Yeah, and the idea is, when we go to a lot of the stakeholder meetings, a lot of it is, oh, we're short-staffed, we don't have enough people. And we think a lot of it has to do with we need to do an internal audit to see if you really truly are short staffed, right? It's easy to feel like, maybe you don't have enough help, but maybe it's just the resources aren't being used correctly, or people aren't being used correctly in terms of, maintaining fields or things like that. So I think to make a statement, say, oh, you need more staff here. We think that there's more study that needs to be done before saying, you're short staffed, right? You had that FBI study that says you should have 45 police officers. But when looking at, the number of incidents, where are the incidents happening, at what times of day, maybe it's looking at, the shifts and do you have enough people on that shift? Or maybe there's not enough people on that shift. So I think it's kind of looking at that information and making determinations off of that, not just making, making a rash decision that, okay, we have to add more people here because we feel short-staffed.
I understand. I think someone mentioned the housing element.
Yes.
I think that is kind of goes hand in glove with all these other elements because of the impact of the housing and the projected or the real or
Yeah.
perceived impacts that additional, whether it's from affordable housing or other, is impacting growth in that particular area. It kind of dovetails and crosses all these other elements.
Yes.
So putting that last, I think maybe that should also kind of blend in and be considered.
Yeah.
Even some baseline to get you
Absolutely.
kind of
yeah.
baselined as you're developing these. And that's just my recommendation. I've done these in the past myself, and
Yeah, I agree with you. When it is available, we would love to be able to incorporate it and be able to, there's other elements that are going to rely heavily on what is going on in there, like your land use element where you're looking at the uses and you're forecasting a build out analysis, like that's going to be a really valuable piece of information. So I think once that is finally, adopted, I think that'll be crucial. And maybe even this ends up, like, especially community facilities, maybe that ends up being amended because we realize, the numbers that were projected by the Board of Ed, maybe they're changing because of, we use the Rutgers study to determine how many school children are going to come from these. And from these, I'm assuming there's probably going to be one or two projects. And I think having those numbers and making assumptions on that and utilizing the Board of Ed information will be critical, right? So maybe something continues to work or maybe something doesn't continue to work. And, we need that information as well.
And I think that data could be valuable. I mean, there's 10, 20-year trends you could get out of whether it's the school board or the township budgets and the like that can help support that. You'd be surprised. I've been looking at that.
Yeah.
And it's, you look back 10 years from, X to Y and what you perceive or you think is happening, the numbers are a little bit different
Yeah.
than what you would think. So, but this is a great start. I just want to compliment your work and efforts on
Thank
this,
you.
and obviously the committee
Thank you.
and everybody that's involved.
Yeah,
So
and
thank
just-
you.
Sorry to interrupt. And just to clarify, we are not adopting this evening, right? This is a presentation. We're taking your input. We're going to take it back. We're going to add things. We're going to tweak things. So all of this is going to be included as well. So I didn't want anyone to think this is the end of this element.
No, we get a second bite at the apple when the entirety of the document gets adopted.
Yes, yes.
Can I go?
Can I just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Just if there is going to be a second bite, maybe you just have someone within the municipality look at this to make sure
Sure.
that they agree with all the data that's being presented.
I think it would be a great idea to recirculate it to the members of the stakeholder meetings, like when we broke out into smaller, like just one person be like, hey, whoever wants this light reading.
Responsible for facility. There was someone that was responsible for handling facilities at Town Hall. So maybe you could reach out to them. They work over at the DPW.
Okay.
So maybe you just want to reach out to them.
I could send them both elements then.
What's that?
I could send them both elements then, the recycling element as
Yeah,
well.
because that's where you're going to be dealing with your recycling as well, and some of your debris removal and all of that kind of stuff. And also just, I was curious, so I reached out and got the number. So just so you know, because you just said you wanted an updated number.
Yes.
For 2025 EMS from the ambulance squad, the calls are 1,595. So this way, at least you have that number to, I know you said you wanted it, so,
Yeah, slightly higher than the 1,500 so the increase.
yeah.
Lindsay, I'm sorry.
No, it's
I
fine,
just
fine.
have one other question. From one of those stakeholder meetings that we had breakout groups. One of the things that somebody, I don't remember who it was, brought up was community facilities and taking more advantage of how we use them. And they brought up things like music festivals, fairs, having food trucks come in, things like that. Are we incorporating that anywhere, when we talk about facilities and how we can use them?
Sure. So in the community facilities element, we do speak about a actual community facility, a community center. Based on a lot of the stakeholders, what we heard as well is they did not want a sole senior center. They liked the idea of kind of the integrated classes where they were taking a cooking class with some younger people, and they really appreciated that. So in there, we do have a recommendation of looking into some kind of community facility where things like that could happen, whether, you have that parking lot and you have your food truck festivals or your music festivals, or where internally maybe you have, some kind of holiday market or things like that can like really incorporate people in the community kind of being social and being together and enjoying, spending time with your neighbor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Dunbar.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and this report is a wonderful educational tool, so thank you.
Yes, thank
I
you.
enjoyed reading it. Some things that I just want to bounce thoughts off of are the cost of some of these suggestions, as you mentioned. And I was at a meeting recently at another township, and they were discussing the need for a fire truck. And those are almost $1 million
Yep.
now for a fire truck. So I know that as we expand development, we need more services, but we have to be safe. But these are things that need to be taken into account before we make these decisions in expanding development, I think. I like the idea of shared services and a dispatch center. Then Ernie had mentioned a heliport and location for a heliport. I'm wondering, some of you may know we do have a heliport over in Lafayette. If, perhaps that would be, people could be made aware of that, and we could share that area. That was part of a Green Acres project a couple years ago. So just up 15 a little ways and over towards Warbass Junction area, there is a heliport access for medevac there. Of course, I'm thinking about the turf. You expected that probably, the turf issue. There's a lot of new research that's coming out of Europe, Denmark, Scandinavian countries that have tried using turf fields. And there's a lot of negative information about the health-related impacts for youngsters, as well as the soil and the disposal costs that are involved. So I do think we need to keep a close eye on that, and we're trying to do that in the Environmental Commission. So those are just some of the thoughts that I wanted to share with you. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
Mike?
So after listening to everything we've been talking about, I think we do need to prepare for the future and have an annex building to service the North Village in that area of town. It may not be a problem today, but 20 years from now will be. And only perfect practice makes perfect. So what we prepare for today, we'll be ready for tomorrow. The other thing, I think it's wonderful talking about the growth of White Lake, but nobody's mentioned anything about, and you see this when you travel south, a handicapped fishing dock or a fishing pier. And maybe that's something that can be incorporated and done with donations, so it's not a huge cost to the town. DPW work can help too. I mean, there's Boy Scouts that can help develop these areas. We have a trout stream. There's nowhere for a handicapped person to pull up that enjoyed fishing at one time of his life or her life and can utilize these facilities in that respect. So, it's something to think about, and it's not a far reach, I don't think. Donation wise, I've seen many walks done, people have donated, they have their personal placards put on the walks, recognizing their efforts too, I think is very doable, and that's, all I have really for this,
Thank you. And to kind of piggyback off your comment, one of the things we do touch on ADA accessibility. And I think one of the things when we think about ADA accessibility, we don't think about other disabilities recognized by ADA beyond physical handicaps, right? So we think about people in our community who maybe are on the spectrum. And I think one of those items that I don't know if we touched too deeply on it is looking into spaces that are accommodating to everyone, especially who experience the environment from a sensory standpoint a little differently than the rest of the community. I work with another community where we took an old fire trailer and we converted it into a sensory space. So when the community had a tree lighting or there were fireworks, the trailer was brought in and it was kind of like a safe space for people on the spectrum. But there's also a correlation between some of the soothing things between people on the spectrum as well as those starting to suffer with dementia and Alzheimer's. So there's kind of, you find spaces like that maybe it's in when we have that community facility plan, you think about things like having that room where lights are dimmable, sound is a little quieter, and you can think about things like that as well for, accessibility purposes.
Can we add that in?
Yeah.
Can you put a sensory space? Like
Absolutely.
whatever you did, the trailer, I think you
Yeah.
said it's a trailer, is that what it is?
It's a trailer. Yeah, they repurposed a trailer, and in there they have dimmer lights. They have noise canceling headphones. We designed it in our offices for them, and it's kind of like this is kind of like my passion project as well. Is designing spaces for people on the spectrum and making sure that we can, it helps if you have a sibling who's on the spectrum, right? Then that child doesn't have to miss out on opportunities as well. And the parents can go to a place and go there with confidence, knowing that, if the child is having, a meltdown or having a moment, they can go into that space. And, it's nice for the whole family.
I don't know how anyone else feels, but I would love to see that added as something to be looked at as expansion. I didn't want to interrupt, but I just think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Really great.
I think as especially as like numbers rise with people being diagnosed, being on the spectrum, I think it's something that's kind of going to start being critical to communities to think about.
Bill?
Well, I had the opportunity to serve on the committee, so I had my input there, so I don't really have questions, but I think you guys all made some really good points to add to this. And just to add a little more to some things that were said, and the reason for baselines, as Chris started to bring up, more development equals more calls, and that was brought up particularly by the police department. And I think the reason for the baseline is they want us to recognize that, and then when they're saying more development, it's not just commercial, it's housing, it's, whatever it is, it's going to result in more calls. And even if people are just coming to work and they're not in the community, they service those people, whether it's through the EMS or the police and everybody who travels through. So they wanted us to keep that in mind. And they both mentioned the need for an annex. The other thing Lindsay brought up that I just want to elaborate on is the 105-foot fire truck. We do have one. And I think there's only one other in Newton. I mean, I could be corrected on that, but we have one. And what they said was this 105-foot fire truck is capable of putting out a fire for 3 stories. It can do 4 stories, but the scenario changes because to do 4 stories, they actually have to drop the line above the building, and it becomes a more dangerous type of situation. So just to put that into perspective of what that means for, the one truck. So
You said it's 3 stories?
they can do 3 stories comfortably, but when you go to a 4th story, they have to go tackle the fire from above. They have to drop a line. What that means, I don't know. I assume they drop a guy down. Jenny was in that meeting too. I don't know. Did you get the same impression? It's a person going down, which becomes very much more dangerous.
Other apparatus like ladder.
Yeah, everything. And that's all we have. We have one, and then there's only one other. So if it's a large fire, it becomes a problem. And Lafayette, they said, was short-staffed, which was the real, yeah.
Well, this is a great point. I mean, it's Chief Odom, Chief McCarrick, and others, across all the services looking at this now, or are they waiting to see the final draft product? Are we soliciting input?
Tomorrow. We can circulate it tomorrow because I'd prefer them to see and get their input, so it can be incorporated, right? We don't want to give it to them like the 9th hour. Given
I
the
think
time.
soliciting their input now and, getting their feedback now is critical.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
And
add
then
our
just, Joan,
comments in.
just to touch upon something that you triggered, when you mentioned development, the perception, everybody goes right to the development of commercial, industrial.
It's not, it's any
Everything
kind.
that's in this element and everything that's going to be in this master plan is a form of development, whether you're open space, recreational, trails, et cetera. That's all forms of different types of development.
So is traffic.
Streets,
because
roads,
you're treating more
infrastructure,
people,
energy,
access.
transportation, all that.
All of it.
All those elements are all different types or forms of growth and development. Call it growth and development, whatever the taglines I know they put sexy words next to them once in a while when they update these things, but I think it's important that we all look at it that way. Because whatever we're trying to promote or try and expand and bring to the community, it's going to take some capital and some improvement work and effort in form of quote unquote development or the like.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? So with having been capable of giving my own input on the subcommittee level and with Lindsay in passing with putting all of this together and hearing all the comments that you guys have made, one of the things that kind of stood out to me, so when we were talking about baselines and cost and things of that nature, I also want to note that even though this does take that into consideration, the heavier lift on that side is going to be with regard to the ordinances that are involved in giving this document its teeth. So when we look at how those facilities come together, how things get designed, how all of these audits and so on should be performed, that's definitely going to be more, in my opinion, on an ordinance level, because that's going to give the actual information in terms of how these things come about. And then, of course, we look to council, right, to say, okay, this is the intent and this is the thought process for the next 20 years. And as much as we would like to say we have crystal balls, we don't. We do know that things are changing. We do know the housing element is not finalized yet. We do know that there are going to be more residents within the confines. We do know that the numbers are growing. And as all of that happens, we look to the council with the hope and anticipation that financially we get to the point where we're capable of supporting the growth that's going to happen on that side. Now, whether that be, to right some of the ship within the confines of the municipality, or looking at how monies are being spent there. Audits don't just need to be in terms of personnel and how these things are structured. Audits should also happen within the confines of this building, and how people are being utilized, and how efficiency is moving across the board, because a lot of the issues that we run into when it comes to applications, complaints about applications not moving the way that they should, or people not getting information available. How long did we have to wait to get zoning maps posted to a website, right? We're still having technology issues. So all of these things, we kind of look to the council and to the people in this building, not saying that people aren't doing an amazing job, because they are. It's just that when we talk about audits and analysis and looking at all this stuff, it just brings to mind that for the master plan to be effective, this building needs to be effective. So we're hoping and looking to council to, like I said, give the ordinances the teeth that this document needs in order to be able to move forward. Also, in saying
And
that,
that's a good point. And in order to get to that point, when this thing gets drafted, you have to do a gap analysis, you have to do conflict analysis, you have to see what ordinances support this current plan. You cannot put the cart before the horse and or pick. First off, this thing has to be broken down into priority. Right,
Absolutely.
and priority, maybe a phased approach, like no different, you're gonna lay this out over a 2, 3, 4 phase program. But all that preliminary upfront work, it needs to be layered into this, whether it's economic, financial, compliance, ordinances, gap analysis, all that should be done now, because just the level of effort to get that right-sized has to be supported. And if 80% of what we're talking about is in conflict right now, there's a hell of a lot of work to do to get our ordinances
As much as I agree
fixed.
with you on all of that, the
Good.
unfortunate circumstance is that takes money. And that's something that right now, we don't have available to us.
And this
in the
township and this building, to defend it a little bit, and it's not to get into a debate, call it efficiencies, inefficiencies, they are really strapped here with
Oh, I
resources.
understand. I
This is an understaffed
And I
township
agree.
building here right now.
I
All
agree.
right?
I
And
literally said the
they-
same thing.
I mean, I'm on board with it, and that's the level of effort it's gonna take here, right? I mean, you can't ask anything more from when we're got people really squeezing tight now. So,
I get it. So basically, all I'm saying is that in order for us to provide what's being asked, right, in terms of, doing a deeper dive and getting more information and pulling all of that together, I mean, the subcommittee has done an amazing job in dealing with stakeholder groups, in getting together, in extra meetings, in doing subgroups where they're getting together, trying to parse out as much as possible. So we're at a point now where we need help, and we're reaching out for it, and we're hoping to get it. But I don't want to see certain things be missed in these elements because we didn't have the facility to be capable of grasping onto that when we had the
yeah,
opportunity.
but the energy and vision that's being put into this, keep that momentum going. All
We're-
right,
we're
don't
doing our
worry about
best.
don't worry about how we get there. The vision and the energy that you're doing here, it's very productive. This is the furthest I've seen a document like this go over a long period of time to see something like that. So I am on board with what you're saying there, Celeste.
I appreciate that. Also, in saying that, so when we talk about facilities, I met with Parks and Rec, and one of the things that they had talked about, and yes, okay, we talk about people being understaffed and so on, but they specifically spoke about maintenance, right? So we want fields, we want trails, we want all of these wonderful things, but we don't have the manpower to maintain it all in a timely fashion. So when we look at those things in terms of audits, I really think specifically with community facilities, Parks and Rec should get a a little bit of extra attention when it comes to maintenance and the facility that they have available to them to maintain all of these things that we're anticipating moving forward with in the future. That all having been said, thank you.
I have one more thing, I think it's important, so, and I just recalled it. When we were meeting with the police, they were saying the nature of the calls is significantly changing and how they are spending much more time now on mental health calls. The number of mental health calls and the time spent, they can spend 6, 7, 8 hours on a mental health call, taking that patrolman off the street. And I think they said there are usually 2 of them. So just, keep that in mind too, that the nature of things is also changing, particularly with, they said after COVID, you could see some of the mental health issues and the aging population. They're doing a lot more with the aging in mental health calls. So just to throw that in.
Yeah, thank you for making that point because I remember us talking about that at length at the subcommittee level.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, but I do want to open it to the
No,
public.
I know. Just a question for Lindsay. So for example, the master plan, I don't have my copy of the current master plan with me, so apologies up front. But I don't think all of these elements are in our existing master plan right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So my question is, for this one in particular, what would be, like outside I see this document not as being backed by an ordinance. I see this as being a guiding principles, like these are the guardrails, these are the things, because I don't think you could put an ordinance together, for example, because you can't say, well, if you put up an annex fire truck or an EMS station, it has to look like this and this, because you don't know where it's going. It just has to be over there somewhere on the other side of the railroad tracks, in which case all the design is going to be tied to wherever it ends up, right? Whatever zone or wherever it might be. So I guess to the point is, hopefully some of these don't need that rigorous ordinance backup. So when we look at something like this one, and this was my question to you, do you see ordinances that need to be done to enforce the guardrails of this element?
So yeah, not necessarily in a sense. Some of these items I think could be ordinance amendments in terms of adding things to, say, your site plan checklist, right? And maybe it's making sure that not just getting a letter saying the police department is okay with the, it's going deeper into that, asking the police department to do kind of an inventory of that area and ensuring that they can service that area. So that would be where like the ordinance part comes in. For the most part, these two elements are really meant to be more inventories. They're meant to look at what you have almost as like a picture in time. This is what we have. This is what we were expecting. And then when we look back on it, you can see, because you'll be doing re-exams, right? And in the re-exams, you'll be able to look back on it and say, okay, this is what's changed since then. And that's where you can start pulling ordinance, or that's where you start determining, some of the ordinance, I mean, the recycling element, some of that information in there is in ordinances. And there are some ordinances for the recycling element specifically that contradict. So the amendments would be making sure that the ordinance or information on the website coordinates with the ordinances. That's where it wouldn't be ordinances like bulk requirements.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. So to me, in both of these elements, because neither one of these elements is in what we have right now. So that's why I was trying to kind of get an idea to your point, Celeste. I know they need teeth behind them, but in order to move them forward, maybe some like these two just need guardrails refined versus ordinances that cost money and everything.
Yeah.
An ordinance amendment is still going to cost money.
Right, but that's why I was asking her, does she see this as being requiring a lot of ordinances? And if so, what? Because I'm just trying to, in my head, visualize how would you put ordinances to any of this?
No, any of these ordinances would be very minor amendments. Like I said, adding something in your site plan review section, adding something in, your recycling section of your ordinance, just to make sure it's coordinated. Nothing would be like a complete reworking of your ordinance, because kind of based on what we've looked at within the town, and what is in your ordinances, we don't see the need to rewrite it based on your community facilities, right? We're not saying rezone this area because you need parks and you need fields. We're not suggesting that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So that having been said, again, thank you to everybody on the subcommittee. Thank you to everybody on the board who just weighed in on this. And I'm going to open it to the public for any comments or questions on this particular section.
There is, in the 84 plan, there is a section called Community Facilities Plan element. There's land use, circulation, housing, utility service, community facilities, recreation, conservation, stormwater, energy, and then implementation. So there is currently.
But it's not broken out like this.
Yes, there are elements. So that's what I wanted to say. So what we're looking at now is one of, I think, 9 elements. So these are little snapshots, what Lindsay just said, snapshots of an inventory of where we are right now. So we went and I talked with a whole number of stakeholders. I talked with the chiefs, I talked with the EMS and the schools, and got their input for Lindsay and the committee to form the specific elements that are related to those stakeholder inputs. And so that's what this is. So there may be a couple things like White Lake was missed. We added it in last week. But for the most part, these are little pieces of what Sparta looks like right now. And then there's a separate part that is not what we're talking about yet, and that's goals and objectives. And in those goals, those are the things that those are the things that when an applicant comes or an ordinance comes to the planning board, you're going to be looking, and please correct me if I'm not stating this correctly, but you're going to be looking at those things, whether it's an application or an ordinance for consistency, and you're going to put it up against, just like you do now, the master plan document, including, and most importantly, the goals and objectives based on the input of these little snapshot elements. And so this is just a small part of a bigger document that is basically, as Lindsay said, it's a snapshot in time, but it's also going to support then the important part, which is the goals and objectives, because it's based on the goals and objectives that you are going to have your ordinances. And those ordinances are going to come from the committee in the form of recommendations. And some of them are going to be, for example, the first, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but or ahead of the committee, but one of the elements is one of the goals based on what we've already had. So we looked at 84 goals and we revisited them to see what would be important now. And for the most part, we kept most of them.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of them are still very much relevant.
Very relevant.
The objectives just are really what's going to change of how to achieve those goals.
Right. So as we put those together, that's the blueprint. And this is an overused word for this, but that's what it is. It's a blueprint on which you're going to base your elements. And we're also how you're going to look at the impact of a development, whatever that development is, in terms of the use of the resources, the impact on the schools, the use of the impact on the infrastructure. And that's where the cost things come in. But that's not what this is about. This is about putting up the structure, the framework on which you're going to put your ordinances together. Maybe there's ordinances here that still work, but then maybe there are ordinances that need to change based on the input from the community on what they want to see for their town going forward for the next, this document's 40 years old, for the next 20 years, let's say. So when you're talking about cost of things and money for things and money for studies, that's not what this is about. This is about setting up the framework on which you make the decisions. Do we do a study? Where do we need a study? What information do we need to support new ordinances that are going to support the master plan? So I hope I'm not overstepping, but that's my overall from the comments that I'm hearing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, I think what would be helpful for the board here and also the public is an outline of the process.
Okay.
Whether it's a flow chart, an organizational kind of flow chart, just showing here's the steps of how you do a master plan, and then at what point are you starting to bolt on a little bit more aggressively the details behind them, right? And you know, I just heard the word blueprint. This is the blueprint, right? And then as you're building it, I think the sequencing and the steps would be important. Because the last thing I want to do is start hearing ordinances are going in for 3 of these things, and we're not even conceptually there as an overall master plan document.
And
So
that's not even the role that we have. The role that we have is to take the input from the community, to take the input from the professionals, the look at what things are right now, and put those into the various elements. And some of them are statutorily required, right, Lindsay?
Yes.
We're
some of them are
required to have them.
statutorily required, and some are like the community facilities, recycling element, these are not required. But we think that they're important for the sense of having this moment captured, right? And understanding what is going on and what's affecting the remainder of the comprehensive master plan as well.
This one is not required. And is the recycling one required?
No,
So neither one of these are required.
no.
Okay.
Good ideas.
Yeah.
No, I'm
But
not
when
saying they're
somebody's
not.
looking at our community, they're going to look at the master plan. These are the things that are going on in the community.
Yeah, and the MLUL does say that these, like, there is sections in the MLUL, how to do these sections, how to write them, what's expected of them. So although they're not required for a master plan, they have a whole list of other elements that you can do in coordination with the state requirements. So it's not like we're not just making this up to,
No,
yeah.
I don't think anyone's saying that.
Yeah.
Have
But I think the other
circulation, land
thing-
use, circulation, land use, stormwater, or what is it, the storm?
change.
Climate
Climate change
change.
is part of
and-
land use.
Right, so
Um,
all these elements will
economic
come to
development, land
you.
use, Your
as-
housing element,
Mhm.
population.
So I think what Mike said, just to give that some credibility, in the normal way people think,
Yeah.
I cannot stress, I think that's important. I think at
Absolutely, yeah.
some point, at some meeting or on a website somewhere or something, the whole thing should be laid out for people so that they understand the amount of time and what goes on. Because in pretty much 99.9% of everybody's life, you would start with goals and objectives on any project in the free world, like really most of the projects, right? You are starting at the end point. What is the goal? Why am I doing this? What is the objective? So I think people are confused in following along right away. This is great stuff, but I think to Mike's point, if you're not on a member of the planning board, or you're not familiar with what a master plan is, or you haven't seen one, really, I think it would just be nice to have maybe just a piece of paper that's on the website.
So,
That you don't have to
to
do
be
a whole
fair,
thing.
right, this
We're
would be
working
fair,
in
we do
parallel.
have a,
Both
we do
things
have
are
a
happening.
website that is out there, that the public can use and can view. And we did go over this when we started the initial survey for data for the master plan. So is it helpful to revisit it? Sure it is.
Yeah,
But
keep,
to
and
be
if you
fair,
did if you did in the past, bring it
this is the
forward, because
process
a lot
that
of
had
people
been
don't know
done.
that.
Right, so
I know,
Sparta
but I'm saying
master plan, just Google Sparta master plan and it'll come up. It's not on, it doesn't live on the website. It's not hard. It's hard to find if it's there in the township website, but just Google Sparta Township Master Plan and you'll find it. And it's a very well resourced site to go to. And you can look at the old master plans and that might give you a better idea of what we're talking about. But both things are happening in tandem. So the elements are being worked on at the same time as the goals and the objectives are being worked on. We have the goals already. We're just working through them. And Lindsay is working with the committee and the other professionals to put together the other elements. So that's all I have.
thanks, Jenny. Anybody else have anything to add?
Hi, just a quick comment on artificial turf. Are you surprised? There's currently a bill before the state legislature that proposes banning the use of Green Acres funds for artificial turf. And if you look at the current research, there's a lot of detriments to artificial turf through the microplastics, PFAS, many of which are endocrine disruptors, and the use of the crumb rubber infill made from recycled tires that contains those PFAS chemicals. Also, the disposal, they typically age, I think the lifespan of artificial turf is 8 to 10 years, so they have to be torn up and either recycled, which I don't think happens very often here. I think there's new technology that doesn't use crumb rubber infill, but there's still a lot of detriments. I realize it extends playing time, and you might think it might be viewed as a necessary evil. I understand that. But as they age out, I would urge you to re-examine replacing them with natural turf. I know many of us grew up in a time where there was no artificial turf, and we survived quite well. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're ready to move on to recycling.
All right. Let me put the presentation. I'm getting really good at this. Okay, so transitioning now to the recycling element. The core purpose here is to kind of align the local development review process with state environmental mandates, protect the public health.
Slide.
We're looking at the facility still.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Protect public health, conserve natural resources, and integrate long-term waste diversions. And that's a picture of trash. So Sparta's recycling programs. So the programs relies on a mandatory source separation for all residential, commercial, and institutional properties paired with single stream curbside collection for commingled containers and fibers. Compliance is backed by local enforcement and fines, which directly help fund the local program. So for non-residential properties, entities must secure private hauling and submit annual recycling tonnage reports. Crucially, under development regulations, new construction projects must submit a formal recycling plan during site plan approval, and a certificate of occupancy is withheld until a licensed recycling hauler contract is secured. I'm sure many of you guys have heard David and myself often bringing this up during site plan reviews to ensure that these developments are going with private haulers. Next is the 2025 tonnage metrics for residential recycling diversion. In 2025, Sparta successfully diverted 1,303.93 tons from the waste stream, with vegetative waste and paper products making up 46 and 25% of that total, respectively. This is heavily supported by the partnership with the Sussex County Municipal Utilities Authority, which provides access to multi-material recycling centers, free drop-offs for electronics and textiles, household hazardous waste, collection events, and commercial composting facilities. So construction and demolition, waste and solid waste utilities, the state mandates require construction and demolition recycling for projects generating over 40 cubic yards. While Sparta currently relies on Chapter 26 soil and fill placement permits for controls, formalizing a standalone C&D plan is a key next step. Financially, the solid waste utility operates as a self-liquidating fund with billing credits available for eligible senior citizens and veterans. And we'll get into that a little bit more on this next slide. As we go into the solid waste utility finances. So solid waste utility manages funding. Services is mandatory for non-HOA residents, but you cannot opt out. But HOA residents can request to participate with written requests to the clerk, but must enroll for solid waste and recycling programs. You can't do one or the other, and cannot terminate an active municipal collection until the contract term has ended. Annual bills are issued in January, although they do come in 4 installments. So you can do that seasonally with a 10-day grace period. Unpaid charges for 30 days will be a formal delinquency notice. And then finally, as we talked about those credits, the township does give a $25 available credit for senior citizens and veterans. Next, we kind of just go into the recommendations here. So strategic recommendations for recycling focus on 4 areas: amending ordinance to incorporate a formal construction and demolition waste management plan, investigating community food scrap or organic waste processing partnerships, which could also include developing a backyard composting initiative for food, lawn, and garden waste by providing educational materials through the township website, social media, and partnerships with the Sparta Public Library and the Board of Ed to provide info on how to begin and maintain backyard composting systems. Also develop a digital reporting portal for annual recycling tonnage, provide update single stream sorting guides on the municipal website, and review and update the availability and design of public recycling receptacles. I know we also talked about in the recycling element, different kind of apps and different programs that residents could potentially have that help you understand, the recycling processes, what days things are being picked up, whether it's, garbage or your recycling, or, your Christmas tree pickup, things like that, are things that we could look into to providing for residents. And that concludes the recycling element.
Okay. Before we move on to board, So now that the professionals have heard both elements, is there anything that, Dave, specifically, that you've heard that you'd like to add, see addressed?
Just a couple of things. Number one, I think Lindsay and the committee did a great job quantifying all the township's assets, and I think the municipality should be very proud of all the assets that it's got at its disposal. They're very blessed that way. The only thing I was going to suggest on the going back to the resources was for the water department. I think you've got a unique situation in that a portion of the water system actually penetrates down into Byram Township. And I think that should be suggested that it's noted in here because there is some infrastructure that gets involved down in Byram. Just like you pointed out that the SCUM over in Hardiston Township handles the processing of the waste. Again, Sparta Township has some responsibility through its utility to keep the people in Byram Township in water as well. That's the one thing I noted.
Are you talking
Thank you.
about up by the, right around here by the Glen? And the guy who came that one time and talked about protecting the sewers from the Rossi? Or is that something
You
different?
talking about the Newton Reservoir?
Yeah, yeah, oh, Newton, that's Newton, I'm
That's-
sorry.
That's Newton's water supply. though.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, Morris Lake is Newton's water supply.
got it mixed-
But what I'm
okay.
talking about is, as you look at the map up on the screen right now, the roughly rectangular area that's Lake Mohawk, it doesn't stop at the municipal boundary line. The water system keeps going down into Byram Township. You're not under the Board of Public Utilities because you don't have that many customers or that percentage revenue involved, but still, you're married there, if you will. So I think that'd be an important part for everybody to know for the future.
Thank you.
There's even a water tower in Byram. That's smart.
There you go. I wasn't sure off the top of my head without looking at the maps if it was just the distribution line, but if there's a water tower down there, and someday if there's a well down there or whatever, but you are married down in Byram Township.
Dave, I'm going to reach out to you.
Thank you so much, Dave, for your
Yeah.
input. Ken?
Yeah, just real quick, Lindsay, excellent job. I took some notes that I can help on the revised next draft, and I'll share them with you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay, great. So now we will open it up to the board for comments, questions on the recycling element. We will start down on Joan's side this time.
Don't have anything.
Okay. Mike?
Is there a future plan of having a recycling center, in Sparta Township where you can actually bring, your recycling to the center, or is that something that's, I know some townships have it, some townships don't. I don't believe we have any now.
Yeah, I believe there is a facility now.
It's
Is there?
Yeah.
just the.
We actually mentioned it, I think. Where is it?
Yeah, where would that be?
Sparta Township, I don't think so.
There used to be one.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
used to be one here.
No, but I don't think there's one here right now.
Yeah,
I think you have to go to I think there's like a regional facility that you have to go to. Yes, that's the
to go
other
to
Sussex
SCUMA.
County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Right,
that's not
yeah.
in Sparta.
Yeah, it's not in Sparta.
No, I don't have anything else.
It's not too far.
So a Sparta specific
it's
one
right
is
there.
what you're saying instead of the regional one.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I think it's like right there, yeah. I always think.
Yeah,
it's
it's not
right
terribly
there.
far.
Maybe we just highlight it
Just like
and say
last
this is
month
where
when
it
I
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what was I
I
thinking
think
about?
that's a good idea.
Okay, so, yeah, so recycling, I was a little bit concerned a few years ago when we decided to change our sorting and we went to dual stream or single stream instead of dual stream. And I know that there is a recommendation that we consider returning to dual stream. And that is because we have had, I guess, less marketability of our recyclables overseas. And this is because they have to do the sorting, and the cleaning. And I think this would make, our market for recyclables more steady and secure for the future. I never really understood why we switched. you know, from sorting our paper from our bottles.
Money.
And I know you follow the money, you know,
Mhm, yep.
everywhere, but I was never given a number when I asked, what is the difference in cost to the town? You know, so I would seriously like the master plan subcommittee to read this material and to consider transitioning back to, you know, our dual stream. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about this, Lindsay, in terms of what other communities are saying, because it does say here that several communities are changing if they were doing single stream back to the dual stream for, you know, for the obvious benefits of, you know, marketability.
Yeah, I think it was just looking at kind of not necessarily market trends, but looking at kind of recycling and how, you know, the recycling that we think is being recycled isn't necessarily going where we think it is. A lot of it ends up in landfills. So I think it was kind of looking at that and seeing what the possibilities are of going to the dual stream for more environmental purposes.
Well, I think that SCAMUA doesn't really care, you know, if we do either. It's is a matter of cost. So how would we look into that and to try to be more ecological globally and statewide? You
I
know,
think that's policy, a policy decision, not
Yeah.
necessarily
I think
master
that's a
plan.
town question.
So every 5 years, sorry, every 5 years, usually the contract is reviewed and comes back. And the last time that the contract was put together, they, or single stream was offered. And the thought was, not so much about money, but to more encourage people not to just stick their cardboard, you know what I mean? Like, rather than having them put everything apart, to really encourage people, just put all, you know, you don't have to put everything together with a string and smush it down and that, because people were just cramming it in regular garbage. So it was to go this way. But I feel like, in understanding how the government works and sitting on that side of it, that's a decision that should be brought to the council for policy, maybe not something that can be addressed in the master plan, because it's contingent upon availability and the contract. And it's not so much with SCUMA, it's with the hauler. So, and that could change. So I think it just needs to be, you know, another, like we did, like we were recommending with turf almost, like maybe a general statement, we should be reviewing what are the best things, that's fine. But to actually put it in there and say it must be this, I think is almost overreaching of the master plan. That's more of a policy thing that should be brought up to the council when they're renegotiating the contract.
yeah, I guess you know, I understand that, I can see that, but a master plan also is a vision for the community. You know, and what we would like to see, because our community is part of a larger community. And we want to be able to recycle as much as possible. That is our community responsibility. And if something like this, returning to a dual stream, would help us do that, that would really be a good broader vision, you know, for us perhaps. I know a couple of people in my community have said, why did we ever change? You know, I was stacking things. I had my paper box, I had my bottle carton, you know, and I would put it out, and then all of a sudden the confusion of, oh, everything just goes in one place. So it would, I understand, bring about a different awareness and even training and education within the community to switch back. But when there are several communities doing it for good reasons, it is something that perhaps this could become our vision also in the future and something to consider. Yeah, so that was something. And then along with that, I was really glad to see that in terms of recommendations, that we made a recommendation towards doing something about food waste. And I discovered there's a difference between food waste and plate waste. Okay, and I didn't realize that before. And then I was seeing, well, are we taking care of our food waste, plate waste, or both of these? And in Sparta, we're not doing anything about plate waste. Okay, and at Skamua, they're doing very little about food waste, which is a huge problem in our country. So that also could be a concern and a vision for us to try to work on this in the future. I think we've mentioned in here food waste, but I don't see any mention of plate waste in here. And if New York City can do it, we can do it. Right? Yeah. Even though we have bears. No?
It's funny, I said something similar today about composting in Sparta. My friend lives in Rockaway, and I'm like, if they have little composting trucks going around in, Rockaway, in New York, out in Queens, I feel like it's something we could figure out.
Yeah, it would be really worth it when you look at the dynamics of the problem is a third of all of our food is just, trashed. So then, what else? Oh, I think I discovered that we do have a food desert in our county, and that's in Hamburg. We have an actual food desert, so this is just being aware of our neighbors. Skamua doesn't have an anaerobic digestion facility, which would really help with processing food waste. It does not have that. Some communities do. And our alternative is for Ag Choice, which is on 93 Stickles Pond Road. It has a couple other facilities. I know I ride my bicycle by one of them and it really stinks. But that would be something, might be a good investment. Oh, and the last thing, well, there's other things, but it's getting late, that I wanted to mention that was a little bit, I don't know, it just doesn't set right with me when I read that there's a annual senior citizens credit of $25 and also for veterans.
You have to ask for it.
But you have to know how to apply for it if you're a senior citizen. For $25, you're going to get back, okay? And this brings up the whole other can of worms, so to speak, is the issue of just justice, social justice, in that, my neighbors have 3 or 4 kids, and they put out 2 or 3 cans, and every other week I put out my recycling and my garbage. But I'm still paying the big bucks. And I don't know what, maybe Ken, or Lindsay, what other communities do about this, but I live in a community that has several single people or senior people, and it has, families also. And so every Monday and Thursday, I'm faced with that injustice. Seeing that. I don't know whether it's a percentage or whatever we could come up with that wouldn't be, too difficult to figure out. But I think that would help seniors. I think that would help veterans, and single people and families. So I know that has been brought up before in town council, but was not addressed. So I think that would be more helpful than training senior citizens to apply for that $25 a year rebate, So that's all I have.
I'm good. No comment.
Okay, Chris? Yep. So just wanted to make sure that something was in here about DPW. When we're talking about garbage debris, they also offer, our DPW has a huge station over there. So storm debris, tree removal,
and all kinds of stuff like that. And I just didn't see that, anything about that included in this. But it is big. I mean, after some of the hurricanes, if you would have went over to DPW, if anybody actually saw it, it was piles of mountains of trees, shrubs, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that it's important to put something in there because that was also opened for free to all of, for example, the private HOAs in town. So that Lake Mohawk brought their stuff over there, you know, Sparta Lake, all the private ones, all were able to bring it to our DPW, and they collected all of it and got rid of all of it. So I think that's a key service that really was helpful to a lot of people. And they also opened it up to people who were businesses who had removed fallen trees so that you did not have to pay for the disposal of it. So they opened it up when the businesses came there, and I think that was something that was really helpful to the residents, especially right after something like that. So I think that's important. And I know everybody loves these, I don't want to be the doubting Thomas or whatever it might be on the backyard composting. I just think, I remember growing up, my grandmother had an outdoor compost, and every time, we took food and everything like that, and we would go out and put it in the pile, and then it would get all steamy, and she would be able to put it in her vegetable garden and all that kind of stuff. But my grandmother lived in Chatham, and they didn't have bears and raccoons and all kinds of things with all kinds of creepy just things. And so I think that if we're going to incorporate that in the master plan, maybe a better thing to do, because there might be, now there's also these machines, right, that you could, I'm going to get this wrong, so just forgive me, but there's some kind of like thing you could put in your kitchen and you could like put your food in that, right? Okay, so there's that, right? So maybe again, instead of being specific to one type of composting technology, like put it in your backyard and pray for the best, maybe it's just to say to make options available to people from the website, to constantly make sure the website is updated with the most current ways that people can figure out how to handle their own plate waste and plate waste and food waste. So I'm just saying maybe a little more general rather than being specific like that, because my fear is that you're going to get people, we've had a lot of people that moved up here from places that don't have some of the critters that we have right now, and then we think, oh, I'll throw it in my backyard. Next thing you know, the neighbor lets a dog out and it's a problem. So I would like to see that just be a little more general, because there's so many, it's changing so quickly. That's it for me.
Okay, Jeanette?
I don't have much more to add, except that I do love the idea of composting, as long as we could figure out a safe way.
Yeah, I know the one thing I've seen is like a barrel on its side. with a
Yeah,
crack.
yeah.
You can-
I have
you
one of
can
those
put it
too.
in,
Yeah.
It seals, it closes, they can't get at it. That's the one thing I've seen. I know there's all kinds of different things out there, but that's all I got.
Okay, Ron?
All right, a couple of things. Again, great job. I looked at other towns, nothing was this comprehensive, so.
Thank you.
Terrific job. Appreciate your work and all the master plan subcommittee, everything that everyone's done there. Similar to the last thing, I think Sparta has a recycling coordinator, so I want to make sure they have a chance to look at this before it goes live. I think they may have some comments. Paragraph 7.2, I just want to make sure, I'm probably misreading it, but it says that source separation is strictly mandatory for all owners, tenants, or occupants, or residential. For residential, I think we're doing single stream.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure, take a look at that, make sure that maybe some more work. I think it may be residential where you don't have curbside pickup available, but it's not all residential.
You said 7.2.
7.2, the second paragraph, the first sentence.
Got it.
Okay. You talk about SCUMA's hazardous waste recycling program. They've also got electronic waste events and paper shredding events, as well as Sparta, I believe, has, I don't know if it's annual or semi-annual, they do a paper shredding event, so it's probably worthwhile giving mention to that. one thing, again, this is a nit, but I think it'll make it easier for everyone down the road is within the element you mentioned, pricing per pound. Well, this is looking forward 20 years. I would get rid of that just so you're not constantly updating it every time they update it and, maybe say for a fee or something, but I'd get rid of that. And then the last thing is, one of the recommendations was to provide some sorting guides for single stream. And this is why I think having the recycling manager look at it. There is a lot of good information on our town website about single streaming, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and as well as some of these other things we talked about. So that's a tool, and I think it's really important that somehow we get that website into this. And I mean, here's just a picture of things, do's and don't, and this is like one of several pages, so. I think
Yeah.
that's a good resource, and we should put that in here if there's any way.
Yeah, the issue that we found with some of the information on the website is that it's not correct.
Okay.
So that was the one thing. So it's funny you bring this up because we originally went off of the information that was
Yeah.
on the website. And then when we met with the subcommittee, they're like, what? No, that's not correct. We're like, it's on the website.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of getting it, once
So
again, the
maybe it's
recycling
periodic
coordinator.
updates to review,
Yeah.
'cause the
Speaking of the
guidelines are gonna be
recycling
changing, I
coordinator.
imagine, over the next 20 years.
Yeah,
For
well,
sure.
That's the other thing, it constantly changes, is
Yeah.
what they can recycle, they get better and better at it.
Yeah. But once again, sending this to the recycling coordinator and we can all get on the same page as well
Yes,
is,
yeah.
I think, valuable.
Exactly. And then the last thing, it's interesting, and this is kind of a side comment. We do our recycling, at once a week and put it out there. But people really, there's a lot of good information that people should know, should follow. And maybe it'd be worthwhile to get some type of a rave notice out there that says, hey, there's information on this, people should look at it maybe once a year or something like that. And because, once this is done, some people are going to look at it, some people will never see it, but this is important. And I think getting that message out to people is important.
Yeah, that's why we suggest, and actually Neil made this suggestion. There's Recycling Buddy, which has a lot of the information that tells you about what day, actually where I live, we have it, and I can look on in the calendar and it'll say, okay, I have, cans and bottles today. And it tells you what you can, like what cans and bottles qualify and how you have to, remove labels and, take the caps off, things like that. So I think, and it's an app just on my phone, and it gives me a little reminder the night before, like tomorrow's your garbage day. Have it out to and like during the summer on hotter days, we have to bring it out to the curb earlier, and it'll send me that notification that, get your garbage out there by, 6 a.m.
And that's good, but I think, the town has a pretty good website. Sounds like it needs some updating. But I think that's important that people know that, because a lot of people reference the town website for when's my garbage pickup? Is it here today? Is it not there? But just to blast to say, hey, it would pay to have everybody, to take a look at this and may answer some questions that you have. Like, for instance, I want to know how to get that $25.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, $25 is $25.
Yeah, $25.
I'm going out to breakfast.
It's $25 more than you had.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm not
In 4 years.
not saying that funny. I'm going
No,
for it tomorrow.
yeah. But I agree. Yeah. And I think maybe also getting in touch with the recycling coordinator, right, will solve a lot of these things.
But again, another great job. Thank you.
Thank you very
and
much, yeah.
Thank you to the subcommittee as well.
Brian,
I'm all set.
you're all set?
Yeah, thank you,
I was gonna
Brian.
say, it's 9:30, you can't talk.
It's over.
No, he's allowed. And really quick again, thank you to everybody involved, subcommittee, especially for all hard work and effort as always. Thank you for what you are doing and what you have done and what you continue to do. I just kind of want to piggyback off of something that Chris Dunbar had said in terms of dual streaming. We have recommendations in there to do an assessment for a bunch of other things, doing an assessment for dual streaming, just to see what the differential is in cost is probably well worth putting in the extra 3 words into the element. And that having been said, I'm going to open it up to public for comments, questions. I knew it was coming. Hi, Neil.
Hi, I just wanted to make a quick clarification on backyard composting. I believe the recommendation was for providing education on how to do backyard composting, because you can do it successfully. I know, Chris, you mentioned the revolving, rotating drums. Those are available. There are other systems. I've been doing it for years at home with just an open container. It's all about how you layer things. So if you put the greens and the browns, there's a science behind it. So that's what we like to kind of do, is provide education on how to do this. And many towns do this, and they have programs, and some towns even offer discounts on containers for backyard composting. So.
Neil, just a quick question. As the chair of the Environmental Commission, I know you guys do a big Earth Day event. Is this something that's worth having a booth at Earth Day?
Yes, definitely.
Just food for thought for next year.
Food for thought and
Like
food
what I
for
did
compost.
SCUMA,
Thanks.
Did someone say, does SCUMA have a place where you can bring your compost? Does anyone know that?
No,
I'm wondering.
no, they don't have any facility for food waste that I
For
was
food
able
waste,
to
okay.
find.
But the landfill does.
That's Skamoulas.
No, and the landfill they have a whole big recycling segregation section.
Recycling, yes, but not, and to the point, any resident can choose to separate their stuff and drive it over there.
Right.
Right.
But I was wondering, like, is there, maybe something should say,
SCUMA does
work
vegetative
with
composting.
partners, you know what I mean, to try to build like
A shared service
common
kind of.
yeah, like a shared service for this kind of stuff. Um,
Another quick question to the professionals with anything that you've heard in terms of comments, any additional things to add before we wrap this up?
Not on this element, no.
Thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. So that having been said, thank you again to Lindsay for all your hard work. Thank you again to the subcommittee for all their hard work. We are now going to move into executive session. So Ken?
Yes, notice was given for today. We have two matters to discuss in executive session. There was correspondence sent to the planning board by Gray Law Group, a query as to the quarry closure. We need to discuss that. And also, there would be a discussion also of letter from the attorney from Diamond Chip. And we're going to take the quarry one first because there are some people who are conflicted on the Diamond Chip. We may come out from closed session and make a determination, but that determination would be quick. The Diamond Chip is requesting a hearing date, and some other questions we'll discuss in closed session. And the quarry is also requesting an analysis of the applicable ordinances. So that's what we're going to be discussing. These are both questions of litigation that would be discussed. And again, we may come out with a determination. Thank you. If someone would move to go to closed session, and second, we can do that.
I'll make a
Second.
I move we go into closed session.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We can turn off the.
Oh, Jenny?
We're still like off, we're not on. This is still executive.
We're
We're on
We're
now.
on.
We're on.
Yes.
And then you're gonna.
Once, they're going to go back in for the
They're going
separate
there?
matter.
All right, just for the record, we did go in closed session on the quarry closure. That's the Michelotti Sons Concrete Division application. We received a letter from Mr. David Gray dated July 31st, 2026, requesting our interpretation of which ordinance is subject to their application. His letter of July 31st, 2026 specifically notes the application ordinance of 175,000 square feet in place at the time of their May 19th submittal and also their July 8th, 2026 second submittal. We did discuss this in closed session as to whether or not the 175,000 square foot prior ordinance or the new 75,000 square foot ordinance, which was adopted on June 23rd, 2026. We did discuss this in closed session. It's my understanding that there will be a motion going forward that the applicant's application of May 19th, 2026, which was supplemented in July 8th, 2026, is controlled by the 175,000 square foot ordinance, not the new 75,000 square foot ordinance. And that was based upon the review of the board engineer and board attorney and advising you as to the same. If someone would put forth that motion, that the 175,000 square foot requirement ordinance is in place, not the 75,000 square foot.
I'll make the motion that it's the 175 square feet, not the 75 square foot ordinance.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Christine Quinn,
Yes.
Mike Wallace,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Ron Day,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Ernie Ragsdale,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Jeanette Burke,
Yes.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Brian Zimmerman,
Yes.
Birgit Bogler.
Okay, again, we're going to go in closed session again for the public to the DCR matter. There are certain board members which must step down from that. So we're going to go in closed session. We may come back on that. Just those who don't want to stick around, it does look like June 2nd.
September 2nd.
I'm sorry. I got my, thank you, Celeste. September 2nd will be the date under the appellate and Judge Minkowitz order that the matter has to be heard within 45 days. Therefore, it looks that that'll be on the agenda again in September 2nd. We will confirm that when we come out of closed session. But we're not going into closed session, and we'll probably come out with a determination of what date that matter will be heard, if at all. Thank you.
Wait, are we out or in?
We're out right now. We're going into DCR.
Okay.
We're out for DCR. Yeah,
I'm leaving.
Yes.
We have to leave because we're recused
No,
from.
I
voting.
know.
On the record? Are we back on the record? We were coming out of a closed session related to Diamond Chip. I have an email from the Diamond Chip attorney, Frank Vitolo, of today's date at 4:23, confirming that they want to go forward with their application number 689 as prepared by Kimley Horn. There's approximately 698,000 square foot, 2 buildings. And under Judge Minkowitz's opinion, also, which was affirmed by the Appellate Division, we have 45 days from the date of the entry to hear this matter. Therefore, the matter will be heard on the September 2nd, 2026 agenda. If the applicant requests more time, they have that election, but under the court order, we are to provide that within 45 days. We are doing that. On our agenda on that date, we also had the Highland hearing. We're going to see if we can push that off. If not, if the Highland matter has to be heard, the DCR matter would be at 8:15 p.m., but more will follow as to the exact time. Our discussion also was that new notice would have to be given. We're talking about matters going back to 2023, 2024, and that even though we've continued the matter by way of the letter correspondence back, it was always determined to be heard pursuant to the appellate court ruling, which says it has to be in 45 days. We are entitled to a jurisdictional hearing, which will take place on June 2nd. And again, it's my professional opinion that new notice has to be given because of the amount of time that passed. If someone put a motion in favor of that and second, I'd appreciate it.
I'll put forth the motion.
Second it.
Roll call, please.
Mike Wallace,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Ernie Ragsdale,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
and Brian Zimmerman.
Just real quick before we leave, we did discuss, we have 6 members that are eligible on the planning board. Birgit was not here tonight, but she will be the 6th member. I will offer to the applicant whether or not they want additional members from the Board of Adjustment to be brought over, or if they're satisfied with the 6 members, because we do have a quorum. Thank you. Motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to.
I second.